4:30 hours. The North Atlantic. You are 100 meters down, hunting. Your orders are perfect, sent by a machine the Allies can't crack, an unbreakable machine. But the ocean is empty. Your prey is gone. And you are sailing into a trap. May 9th, 1941, 4:30 hours. The North Atlantic, 500 miles southeast of Greenland. The air inside the control room of U-110 is a foul, pressurized cocktail. It smells of sweat, diesel fumes, boiled cabbage, and the damp, metallic chill of the deep. Here, 100 meters beneath a heaving black ocean, Kapitänleutnant Fritz-Julius Lemp pushes his eyes into the rubber hood of the attack periscope, searching for shadows in a world without light. He is a hunter, a hero of the Reich, Knight's Cross recipient, one of Dönitz's most celebrated aces. And he is furious. Nothing. He hisses, the word fogging in the cold. Still nothing. Oberleutnant? His first watch officer, Hans-Joachim Wickbolt, looks up from the chart table, his face pale in the dim red glow of the battle lamps. The hydrophones are clear, Herr Kapitän. Only the storm up top and the groans of the hull. This isn't possible. For 2 days, Lemp and his Wolfpack, Group West, have been combing this exact grid square. They are here on the most precise, most secret intelligence, beamed directly from the Befehlshaber der U-Boote, Admiral Dönitz himself. The order was not a suggestion, it was a certainty. Convoy OB 318, 43 ships strong, would be passing right here. Lemp glances at the Funkrom, the radio alcove separated by a thin curtain. Inside, his Funker, radio operator, sits guard over the key to their success, the Enigma machine. That machine is their god. It is their invisible shield. It allows Dönitz to play this lethal, high-stakes game of chess, maneuvering his Wolfpacks across 1 million square miles of ocean to strike a single, lumbering convoy. The Funker had received the signal 24 hours prior, a burst of seemingly random 4-letter groups crackling through the static. He had set his Enigma unassuming wooden box to the day's secret settings. He checked the Kriegsmarine codebook, its pages printed in water-soluble ink. He selected the 3 Walzen rotors from his set of 5, slotted them into the machine in the prescribed order. He set the Ringstellung ring settings on each. He then painstakingly plugged the thick cables into the Steckerbrett plug board at the front, creating a new, impossibly complex electrical pathway. Then he typed the encrypted message. As he pressed each key, a different letter on the Lampenfeld lamp panel above the keyboard lit up. F became X. L became P. The result was a perfectly clear decrypted order. Attack Convoy OB 318. Coordinates. To Lemp, this message is infallible. The Enigma cipher, he's been assured by the highest command, is mathematically unbreakable. Billions upon billions of possible combinations. The Allies, with their simple, brutish minds, could never crack it. They could hammer away for 1,000 years and never guess the day's setting. This confidence is the bedrock of the entire U-boat strategy. It's why Lemp feels safe breaking radio silence to send his own sighting reports. It's why Dönitz can manage a fleet-wide battle from his chateau in Lorient. So, if the Enigma message is correct, why is the ocean so empty? Lemp's mind cycles through the mundane possibilities. The convoy was faster than his calculations. The storm, raging on the surface, scattered the ships. His own lookouts, their eyes raw from salt and exhaustion, simply missed them in the fog. The one possibility that can turn into his mind is that the British Admiralty also read the signal. That as Lemp was steering U-110 to the intercept point, a quiet voice in a London basement was on the phone to the convoy commodore, calmly advising a 40-degree turn to starboard. Surface the boat, Lemp commands, his frustration boiling over. We will search visually. The fog must be breaking. It is a risk. On the surface, he is visible, vulnerable to long-range aircraft. But the promised fat convoy is too tempting. He needs a sinking. Germany needs a victory. As U-110 prepares to surface, its compressors thumping, Lemp is unaware that his 2 days of frustration are about to end. He will find his convoy. But in doing so, he is sailing directly into a trap set by an enemy who, impossibly, seems to know his every move. His hunt is not just cold, it's a setup. And the unbreakable secret that protects him is nothing but a sieve. The control room of U-110 fills with the shriek of compressed air venting from the ballast tanks. Fluten! The boat shudders, nosing upwards. Lemp grips the periscope handles, his knuckles white, as the needle on the depth gauge sweeps past 10 meters, past 5, until with a final lurch, the U-boat breaks the surface. Look auf! The heavy conning tower hatch is thrown open. A torrent of icy Atlantic spray and biting wind cascades down the ladder, a violent baptism back into the surface world. Lemp, clad in his leather bridge coat, is the first one up. His Zeiss 7x50 binoculars already to his eyes before his boots hit the wet, steel-plated deck. The world is a chaos of grey. The sky, the sea, the fogle are a single churning mass. The wind howls, ripping the words from his mouth. Sweep your sectors. What do you see? The lookouts, young men with faces raw from the salt, cling to the bridge rail. For minutes that feel like hours, there is nothing. Just the roll and pitch of the boat, the groaning of the storm. Lemp's frustration returns, a cold knot in his stomach. Has Donitz been fed false intelligence? Then, a shout from the starboard lookout, his voice cracking with excitement. Rauschfahne! Steuerbord! Zwei null! Smoke! Starboard! 20 degrees. Lemp's binoculars snap to the bearing. At first, he sees nothing. Then, a momentary break in the fog reveals them not just smoke, but the dark, smudged silhouettes of heavy merchant ships, dozens of them, low in the water, heavy laden. OB 318. Alarm! Lemp roars, dropping down the hatch. Tarchen! The klaxon screams. The hatch clangs shut, plunging the control room back into the dim red glow. Periscope depth. Both engines ahead full. The hunter is electrified. The frustration is gone, replaced by a cold, predatory focus. This is his element. This is the Tonnager Creek, the tonnage, whereand he is its master. For the next hour, Lemp plays the most dangerous game in the world. He stalks the convoy just outside its screen of escorts, his movements invisible. He identifies 2 targets, a large British freighter, the Esmond, and a tanker, the Bangor Head. He lines up the shot, his eye pressed to the periscope, his voice a calm monotone. Rohr eins los, Rohr zwei, los. The U-boat shudders as the compressed air fires the torpedoes. Lemp holds his breath, counting. 1 minute, 2. A distant, crushing WWII vibrates through the hull, followed seconds later by a second, heavier explosion. Treffer. A hit. Cheers ripple through the control room. Lemp allows himself a grim smile. Reload the bow tubes. We will surface to observe the kill and signal bead you. But as Lemp raises the periscope for a final look, his blood turns to ice. The attack has acted like a dinner bell, but not for the other wolves. Through the rain-slicked lens, Lemp sees a British escort knot sailing randomly, not searching, but charging. A Flower-class corvette, HMS Aubrietia, is steaming directly at his position. It's too fast. It's impossibly accurate. They didn't search for him. They knew where he was. Tochen, Taifa, he bellows. Flutenales. U-110 crash dives. Its hydroplanes angled steeply down, but it's too late. The world outside the hull explodes. The first pattern of depth charges, ash cans filled with 300 pounds of amatol, detonates with the force of a tectonic shift. The ping, ping, ping of the Azdic sonar is deafening, a hammer against the hull, but Lemp barely hears it over the sound of his boat tearing itself apart. Light bulbs burst, showering the control room in darkness. Pipes fracture, spraying scalding steam and oily water. Men are thrown from their stations. The U-boat groans, a deep metallic scream. Lemp, clinging to a hand wheel, realizes the horrifying truth. This isn't a hunt, it's an ambush. And he's not alone. Above him, 2 more destroyers, HMS Bulldog and HMS Broadway, are joining the attack, forming a lethal triangle, their hydrophones locking onto his wounded submarine. The Bulldog's captain, Commander Joe Baker Cresswell, isn't just dropping charges, he's herding his prey. She's going down. The Bulldog's sonar operator calls out, "She's surfacing! Sir, the target is surfacing." Crippled, her aft section flooding, and her electric motors dead, U-110 is being forced to the surface, blown up from the deep by its own uncontrolled compressed air. Lemp, fighting for control, knows he has one last desperate option: surface, fight, and scuttle the boat. He has no idea that the British commander above him has been given one simple, overriding order from the Admiralty. We want one. We want one intact. May 9th, 1941, to 11 hours. The crippled U-110 bursts through the surface of the Atlantic like a dying whale. It breaches at a steep, desperate angle, water pouring from its vents and its hull plating visibly buckled. For a moment, it hangs there, balanced between survival and oblivion. Inside, the scene is pure chaos. Men are screaming. The boat is filled with chlorine gas from the smashed batteries mixing with seawater. "Alley man rouse, rouse." Lemp, his face a mask of fury and defeat, shoves his way to the conning tower ladder. His boat is gone. His mission is a failure. Only one duty remains: deny the enemy his secrets. Scuttle the boat, open the vents, set the charges, abandon ship. The conning tower hatch bursts open. Lemp is the first out, followed by his officers and lookouts. They tumble onto the bridge, greeted not by escape, but by a vision from hell. The ocean, just moments ago empty, is now a wall of grey steel. The destroyer HMS Bulldog is bearing down on them, less than 200 yards away. Its bow wave a churning white moustache. To port, HMS Broadway pivots, its guns tracking the U-boat. This isn't an attack, it's an execution. A storm of fire erupts. The sharp thwack-thwack-thwack of Oerlikon cannons and the heavier thump-thump-thump of pom-pom guns tear across the water. Shells rip into the conning tower, shredding the thin metal. The British are firing to kill, to suppress, to keep the Germans from manning their own deck gun. Abandon ship. Lemp screams over the din, convinced the destroyers are going to machine gun them all. He watches as Bulldog seems to speed up, its bow angled for a ram. This is the ultimate nightmare. Below deck, Lemp's engineering crew is fighting a losing battle. The chief engineer, Oberleutnant Wickbolt, and his men, loyal to the very end, are wading through waist-deep, oily water in the darkness of the control room. Their one mission: open the seacocks and set the demolition charges. The Kriegsmarine handbook is explicit. The boat must not, under any circumstances, fall into enemy hands. They twist the large valves. Water gushes in. They grab the weighted bags containing the explosive charges, designed to be placed on the pressure hull. But the world tilts. The boat lurches violently. On the surface, HMS Broadway has misjudged its turn, its hull scraping along the side of the U-boat with a sound like a giant fingernail on a blackboard. The impact sends another shockwave through U-110. The German crew on deck panics. Seeing the destroyers this close, the gunfire this intense, they don't wait. They leap from the deck, one after another, jumping into the freezing 40-degree North Atlantic. Lemp himself, the great ace, is one of them. He hits the water and swims, fueled by adrenaline, away from the gunfire, away from his sinking command. On the bridge of HMS Bulldog, Commander Joe Baker Cresswell has a decision to make. His blood is up, the order is ram. But at the last second, he sees the U-boat, abandoned but not sinking. He sees the German crew, like ants, pouring off its sides. "Harder starboard," he roars. "Stand by to lower the boarding party." He veers away from the ram, his destroyer turning so sharply it almost runs down its own target. Bulldog comes to a halt, rolling in the swell, its guns now silent. A terrifying quiet falls over the sea, broken only by the crackle of a small fire on the U-boat's deck and the distant thin cries of men freezing to death in the water. Aboard Bulldog, Sub-Lieutenant David Balmy, a young, slightly built officer, is handed a pistol and a simple order: "Get over there. See what you can find." Balmy looks at his boarding partyite sailors, armed with rifles and cutlasses. They pile into the ship's whaler, a small wooden boat, and begin rowing across the 50 yards of heaving ocean. They are rowing toward a silent, abandoned enemy submarine, its hatches open, its crew gone. They have no idea if the scuttling charges are still ticking. They don't know if German sailors are waiting below to ambush them, and they certainly don't know that Kapitänleutnant Lemp, in his haste, failed to ensure the most important secret of all was destroyed. As the whaler bumps against the U-boat's hull, Balme feels a knot of dread. He looks down. He sees Lemp's men. Most are dead or dying, their bodies stiffening in the icy water. Lemp himself is nowhere to be seen, gone, drowned, or perhaps shot in the confusion. But the boat is floating. The scuttling attempt has failed. The engineers, panicked by the ramming and gunfire, had fled before the charges were properly set or the seacocks fully opened. 110 is a ghost ship. A prize. Right, Balme says, his voice tight. Let's see what they left us. David Balme drops through the conning tower hatch, his pistol leading the way. He lands in a foot of sloshing, oily water. The air hits him first a putrid, chemical stench of chlorine, diesel, and unwashed bodies. The boat is not dead. It is groaning. The hull plates, stressed by the depth charges and the sudden violent surfacing, are whining, popping, and leaking. The red emergency lights cast the control room in a scene from Dante. Papers float on the surface of the black water like dead leaves. A half-eaten sandwich lies on the chart table, its bread already a soggy grey paste. My God. A sailor whispers behind him, his voice echoing in the metallic coffin. Evans. Balme snaps. Stay at the hatch. Yell if she starts to go. The rest of you, with me. No, wait. Balme pauses, his ears straining. Listen. There is no sound, no ticking, no scuttling charges, he says, with a relief that is almost palpable. Or they've failed. Either way, we move fast. We are looking for codebooks, charts, anything with writing. They are terrified. These men are surface sailors. They are not trained for this. This is a black, pressurized tomb that could, at any moment, decide to continue its journey to the ocean floor, taking them with it. Every creak of the hull is a death knell. They split up. 2 men head aft, toward the diesel room, their boots splashing in the rising water. Balme and 2 others move forward, past the galley, past the captain's tiny quarters. They use their torches, the beams cutting through the gloom. They see personal effects, a photograph of a woman, a half-finished letter, a pair of worn-out sea boots. It feels like robbing a grave. Sir, in here. The shout comes from a young telegraphist, a man named Alan. He is standing at the entrance to a tiny alcove, the fulcrum, the radio room. Balme shoves past him. The space is barely large enough for 2 men. The radio operator's chair is still swiveled out. He had clearly left in a hurry, not even having time to close the curtain. And on the small desk, bolted to the bulkhead, is a wooden box. It looks, Balme thinks, like a common typewriter in a case. It is the Enigma machine. Balme, like most junior officers, knows of the Enigma. He knows it's the German code machine. He also knows that a captured machine, by itself, is useless. You need the keys. Look for the books. Balme orders, his voice tight. Charts, logbooks, anything with settings. Alan rips open a small metal locker above the desk. He gasps. It's not empty. The German radio operator, in his terror, had failed in his single most important duty. He had not destroyed the codebooks. He had not even taken the day's settings out of the machine. Alan pulls out a stack of documents, already damp. Sir, look at this. He hands Balme a thick, heavy book, its cover marked Geheim. Secret. It's a codebook. Then another, a thin one with red, water-soluble ink, and another. They find the Doppelbuchstabe, Bigram tables, the Kurzsignalheft, short signal book, and the Wetter Kurzschlüssel, weather short code. They have found the entire set of keys for the Heimische, home waters, cipher, the Holy Grail for the codebreakers at Bletchley Park. That's it, Balme says, a strange calm falling over him. He understands. This isn't just a prize. It's a weapon. This could change the war. Forget the rest, he commands. We take this. He yanks on the Enigma machine. It's bolted down. Cut it loose, and grab every piece of paper in this room. A sailor hands him a heavy wrench. Balmy and Alan frantically work the bolts. Above them, they hear a shout from the deck. Sir, the boat's settling. She's sitting lower. The U-110 is dying. Her buoyancy is failing. Get the books up! Balmy shouts. He gives a final desperate heave on the machine. With a crack of splintering wood, the Enigma machine, weighing over 26 pounds, comes free. Balmy, cradling the machine like a newborn, wades through the control room, the water now at his knees. They form a human chain up the ladder. The codebooks, soaked and priceless, are passed first. Then, the heavy wooden box. As Balmy emerges into the grey daylight, he sees the Bulldog 50 yards away, its crew lining the rails, watching in stunned silence. He sees the whaler, low in the water, loaded with his men and their unbelievable trophy, and he sees the U-110, its deck now almost awash. They have been inside for less than 15 minutes. The whaler slams against the hull of HMS Bulldog with a heavy, wet thud. Hands reach down, hauling the exhausted, drenched boarding party back to safety. David Balmy is last, shoving the 26-pound Enigma machine up into the arms of a stunned rating before collapsing onto the deck, his legs numb. The trophy is laid on the wet steel. For a moment, the entire ship's company just stares. Commander Joe Baker Creswell is the first to move. He understands, instantly, that the battle for U-110 is over, and the battle for its secret has just begun. Get this below. He barks, not to Balmy, but to his own navigating officer. My cabin. Lock the door. Put a guard on it. Nobody sees it. And the books? Balmy asks, holding up the dripping, pulpy mass of paper that represents the keys to the entire Atlantic. Especially the books. Get them drying. Carefully. The second, more immediate problem is floating just 50 yards away. U-110, though dying, is still obstinately afloat. A visible, tangible, 760-ton piece of evidence. Sir, his first lieutenant says, the German survivors. In the water. Baker Creswell looks over the side. His ship's other boats are already pulling men from the freezing sea. Over 30 of Lemp's crew, including the funker who failed in his duty, are being rescued. They are now prisoners of war, and they are witnesses. Baker Creswell makes a series of rapid-fire decisions that will shape the rest of the war. Get a tow line on that U-boat, he commands. We'll try to take her to Iceland. If we can salvage the whole thing, splendid. If not, we'll scuttle her. But the survivors are the real contamination. All prisoners below decks, he orders, his voice like iron. Separate them immediately from the boarding party. No one from Balmy's team speaks to them. No one from the ship's company speaks to them. They are to be kept isolated. They must never know what we found. This is the birth of Operation Primrose. The lie must be perfect. For the next several hours, they fight to save the U-110. A heavy tow cable is attached. The Bulldog strains, its engines churning the sea, trying to drag the dead weight of the submarine. But the U-boat, its scuttling vents finally doing their job, is stubborn. It wants to die. The German prisoners are herded into a forward mess deck, shivering, defeated, and confused. They are given blankets and hot soup, but they are also watched. They huddle together, whispering. They know they failed to scuttle the boat. They saw the British climbing on it. But what did they find? A few binoculars? Some food? Surely, they think, the most important items, the Enigma and the codebooks, were destroyed by their radio operator, as procedure demanded. Or, if they weren't, they are now at the bottom of the Funkram, dissolving in seawater. They can't imagine a failure so total. At 11:50, a shout from the watch officer. Captain, the tow! She's going! The U-110 gives a final, shuddering groan. The tow line snaps taut, then goes slack. The submarine's bow, which had been pointing to the sky, rears up one last time. Then, with a great, sighing rush of air, it slides backwards into a black, oily patch of sea, Within 30 seconds, it is gone. Commander Baker Cresswell watches it go, not with triumph, but with a profound, cold relief. The evidence is gone. The grave is sealed. He goes to the radio room and begins to draft his signal to the Admiralty. It is a masterpiece of deception. Sunk. 110 inches. Position. He reports the kill. He reports the convoy is safe. He reports the capture of prisoners. He makes absolutely no mention of a boarding, no mention of a machine, no mention of codebooks. As far as the official record is concerned, the record that German radio intelligence, the B-Dienst, will undoubtedly intercept and read U-110 was sunk by depth charges, and all its secrets went down with the ship. The lie is cast. Now, it must be maintained. The 32 survivors of U-110 are no longer just prisoners. They are a secret that must be kept, isolated in a remote prison camp in Canada, forbidden from communicating with other German POWs for the rest of the war. And in Baker Cresswell's cabin, under armed guard, the damp pages of the Heimische codebook are laid out to dry, their water-soluble ink miraculously intact. May 23rd, 1941. Bletchley Park, Buckinghamshire. The atmosphere in Hut 8 is not one of frantic action, but of a quiet, scholastic intensity. It smells of pipe tobacco, stale tea, and damp tweed. Here, the war is fought not with depth charges, but with pencils, paper, and monstrous clattering machines called bombs. When the canvas-wrapped packages from HMS Bulldog arrive, they are not opened with triumph, but with a kind of religious reverence. Alan Turing, Dilly Knox, and the other inmates of this eccentric, brilliant asylum gather round. They have seen Enigma machines before captured from weather ships or given by their Polish allies. But the machine is not the prize. The papers are. They lay out the drying, salt-stained Kurtz signal heft and the bigram tables. It is, quite literally, the German U-boat codebook, a complete instruction manual for the Heimische cipher, valid for the entire month of May and June. For the codebreakers, this is not a key. It is the master blueprint for the entire lock factory. They just gave it to us, one of the young analysts mutters, staring at the daily rotor settings. They just left it on the desk. Within hours, the lights in Bletchley Park burn brighter. The flow of decrypted intelligence, what they call ultra, is no longer a trickle, painstakingly won by Turing's bombs guessing at rotor settings. It is a fire hose. They are no longer breaking the code. They are simply reading it. June 1941, Lorient, France. Headquarters, Befehlshaber der U-Boot. Gross Admiral Karl Dönitz stands before his massive wall map of the Atlantic. He is a lean, austere man, a fanatic for his U-boat arm. He is not a strategist, he is a predator. And his predators are starving. It is inexplicable, he says, his voice a low growl. His son-in-law and chief staff officer, Gunther Hessler, points at the map with a wooden ruler. The map is a graveyard of red pins, marking Wolfpack rendezvous points, and blue pins, marking Allied convoys. The pins should be overlapping. They are not. Look, Herr Admiral, Hessler says. Group Eisbär. We ordered them to this grid. The convoy, HX 242, was on a direct course. 2 days ago, it turned 30 degrees south. The weather? Dönitz snaps. The sea was calm. They turned away from us. Again. This is the new, maddening reality. Every time Dönitz masses a Wolfpack, the convoy seems to sniff them out, making an illogical turn at the last possible second. And worse, his own boats are being hunted. Not stumbled upon, but hunted. Allied destroyer hunter-killer groups are appearing, as if by magic, directly over his submerged U-boats, even in the vast, empty mid-Atlantic. The losses are staggering. In May alone, the Kriegsmarine lost U-110, U-109, and the irreplaceable U-94. The heroes of the Reich, men like Lemp, Kretschmer, and Schepke, were being captured or killed at an impossible rate. Radar, Dönitz says, slapping the ruler against his hand. It must be their new decimeter radar. They are seeing us from the air. With respect, Admiral, Hessler counters. Radar cannot explain how they knew where Group Eisbär would be. The signal was sent from this office, by Enigma, 24 hours before. A cold, unwelcome silence fills the concrete bunker. The implications are too monstrous to voice. Dönitz turns to his signals chief, Captain Ludwig Stummel. This question has been asked, and it has been answered. Has it not? Stummel, a man whose career is built on the machine, nods vigorously. Jawohl, Herr Admiral. The Enigma is mathematical perfection. The Reich's greatest minds have confirmed it. The number of permutations is in the septillions. To break a single day's key, a man would need 1,000 years. It is not their radar. It is not our ciphers. He leans forward, offering a more palatable solution. It is spies, Admiral. Spies in our ports, in Street Nazaire, in Brest. They see the boats leaving. They report the patrol sectors. It is a comforting lie. It is a problem that can be solved with bayonets and firing squads. But Dönitz is too good a commander to be fully satisfied. He orders a full investigation. The BD-Dienst, German naval intelligence, is tasked with finding the leak. They re-examine the Enigma from top to bottom. They check the wiring, the rotor settings, the procedures. Their conclusion, delivered in a thick, confident report, is absolute. The Enigma is unbreakable. The British, they argue, are simply not clever enough. The leak must be treachery, or this new, uncanny Allied direction-finding technology, what the British call huff-duff. Dönitz seizes on this. He orders his U-boats to cut their radio transmissions, make them shorter, use the Kurtz signal book, send all clear signals less frequently. He has diagnosed the mortal wound as a symptom. And so, blinded by a potent cocktail of arrogance and faith, the Kriegsmarine continues to hemorrhage. They sail into ambushes set by an enemy who reads their most secret orders, often before the U-boat commanders themselves. They curse their luck, they curse Allied radar, they hunt for phantom spies. The one thing they cannot blame is the little wooden box in the Funkraum, the very box that is betraying them all. October 17th, 1941, 23:40 hours. The Black Pit, Mid-Atlantic. For Oberleutnant Zur C. Erich Schreiber, commanding U-999, the war is going beautifully. He is a young captain, on his first command, and his belly is full of the same confidence that once sustained Fritz-Julius Lemp. His Funker has just finished decrypting a signal from WWII, Convoy SC-84, Herr Kapitän, the radio operator reports, handing him the flimsy paper. Wolfpack Aubrietia is to assemble at Grid Square AK-58. We are the first to arrive. Schreiber smiles, tapping the chart. Excellent. The British think this is their safe zone, beyond the range of our aircraft and beyond theirs. They will be fat, slow, and undefended. He climbs to the bridge. U-999 is running on the surface, its diesel engines thumping a rhythmic, reassuring beat under the vast, starry sky. The air is cold, but the hunt is warm. The Enigma puts us on the dot, he says to his first watch officer. The Admiral sees the whole board. The British are like blind men, swatting at flies in the dark. We are the surgeons. This is the faith. It is total, it is unshakable. The Enigma is a holy text, and Dönitz is its prophet. At 2:15, the lookout, his eyes glued to his binoculars, stiffens. Flugzeug, Herr Kapitän, aircraft. Schreiber's head snaps up. Impossible. We are 600 miles from land. It's a mistake. A star. It's getting louder. The man screams, "It's on us!" A dark, monstrous shadow detaches itself from the Cloudser British Liberator bomber, flying on a vector so precise, so perfect, it could only have come from an exact coordinate. Alarm! Tochen! U-999 is still wallowing on the surface as the first stick of depth charges lands. The ocean around them erupts in white, towering columns of water. The U-boat is kicked sideways, a toy in a bathtub. Schreiber is thrown from the ladder, his head cracking against the periscope housing. He scrambles to his feet, dazed, as the boat plunges. Report. Hull is intact, for now. The engineer gasps. But Herr Kapitän, what? Listen, the ping of Azdik, but not one, not two. It's a chorus. 3, no, 4 contacts. The hydrophone operator whispers, his face ashen. Destroyers, Herr Kapitän. They are all around us. This isn't a search. This is an execution. Schreiber looks at the decrypted Enigma message still clutched in his hand. Assemble at grid square AK-58. He realizes, with a sickening liquid dread, that the signal was not just for him. It was an invitation. The British had read his mail. They had sent this reception committee. For the next 6 hours, U-999 is systematically, calmly, and scientifically torn apart. The destroyers above are not panicking, not dropping charges in a wide, hopeful pattern. They are precise. They are working in a triangle, herding him, just as Bulldog herded Lemp. They know when we turn. Schreiber yells as another charge detonates, this one close enough to shatter every gauge on the control panel. They know before we turn. The air becomes unbreathable. Chlorine gas is leaking. The lights are dead. The U-boat is a tomb, 200 meters down, its hull groaning, rivets popping like gunshots. Men are weeping in the dark, praying. Schreiber, his world reduced to this one, foul-smelling pressurized box, can only think of one thing. How? His funker is slumped over his radio set, dead. The Enigma machine, that wooden box of miracles, sits dark and useless, its keys silent. It wasn't radar, it wasn't a spy, it was something deeper, something impossible. The very bedrock of his world, the mathematical certainty of his superiority, was a lie. He had sailed, full of confidence, to the exact coordinates of his own death, delivered to him by his own high command. As the hull plates in the engine room finally give way, and the full, crushing force of the North Atlantic rushes in, Schreiber's last, uncomprehending thought is not of his Führer or his home. It is of the machine. It was a sieve. This scene, this final, horrifying realization, was not unique to Erich Schreiber. It was the private nightmare of hundreds of U-boat captains, from the summer of 1941 until the war's bitter end. They would die, confused, cursing their bad luck, never understanding that their unbreakable shield was, in fact, the enemy's sharpest sword.